But before I get started, two recent true life stories I have received from actual companies here in the area, from people working there. First one, large company, successful. They've got this critical project. It's late, and they actually called an all-hands meeting with all the engineers and said, we're going to bring in contractors to help get this done, but we're totally not running afoul of Brooks Law. They actually said that right there. They didn't realize that they were violating Brooks Law. They were adding people to a late project. But they said, but it doesn't count in this case. And it's kind of like jumping off a building and saying, well, we're totally not violating the law of gravity. The other thing, and this actually will be a good lead into the Webster 7 stuff. A company that brought in a whole new CTO, new technical management staff, and they were all hot on microservices. They have sort of the big monolithic application. They said, we're going to divide this up into microservices, and we're going to monetize it, and we're going to make these microservices available to other software firms, and we're going to make a lot of money. And their first microservice was a relatively simple one. You go through a customer database, identify the customer's birthday, send out a birthday greeting, and so on. Spent a year on it, didn't have it done. Now, this particular organization, their original projection was monetizing their microservices was going to bring them in over $100 million a year. And if they were unable to build a single microservice in a timely fashion, that just got someone's birthday and sent out a birthday message. No technologies are magic, not even the ones mentioned in Accelerate. It is possible to fail spectacularly in things like continuous development and continuous integration, automated testing, and so on. So, all that said, let me do a quick midterm review. We'll call roll, and we'll do maybe one of the 3 slides out of Webster 7. And then get you out of here. Okay, the test. It's going to be online for Learning Suite. You can take it anywhere. You'll have a 3-hour time limit. Open book, open note, open device, put your own work. Guys, you're on the outer. Just don't talk to other people. Call for citations. We'll talk about that in a second. Spec some questions to deal with lifecycle deliverables. So besides all the readings you've been doing, there may be 1 or 2 questions that have to do with the deliverables you've had to create for your projects. Not your specific deliverables, but the types of deliverables. My usual focus on this is that you have 5 questions worth 25 points each. So you have 125 points in all, and this is worth 25% of your grade. Any questions on any of this stuff right here? Yes?
What time is the test open?
I will, because we have at least 1 student who's going to be in Europe, the test will probably open shortly after midnight, Monday morning. And I'll probably have it open right after midnight to just before midnight on Monday. So you'll have almost 24 hours to take the test. It's actually, in the first couple of classes we had, I had everyone come here and they had 3 hours and they sat with their laptops. Worked really well the very first semester I taught it because it was over in Tanner Building and they had these tables in front of all the chairs and everyone had power outlets. And then the second semester I taught it over at the Marv, we suddenly discovered there were only like 4 or 5 outlets in the entire room. And we had students who were starting to run out of power on their laptop while taking it. So last semester I switched to all electronic. You do it wherever you want. And frankly, as far as I can tell, it works just fine. So that works for me, works for you. Don't delay when you start though. and recognize that once you start, you've got 3 hours and that's it.
How long did the test usually take? What was the average test time?
Probably an hour and a half to 2 hours. It's been my observation.
So good.
When I had people here and actually I watched them, probably 80% of the class was gone by 2 hours. 90% was gone by 2.5. There were some people who dragged all the way out to 3 hours, but pretty much 1.5 to 2 hours is what you should plan on it most likely taking. And the more, this is one where the more preparation you do, the faster the test will go. Sources, Mythical Man Month, the selected chapters. Peopleware, Accelerate, the selected chapters. 5 Orders of Ignorance by Armour. Webster readings 1 through 7. You can use 8 also. You won't read it before the thing. And I'll post all these slides also. So yeah. All my in-class lectures, and the accompanying slides, and the podcasts. Those are all things you can reference. Yes.
So podcasts, we all watch and listen to different podcasts.
Yeah, but if you saw one that actually helps you with the answer, you can say podcast.
Okay.
What you'll find is, and we'll talk, you'll see this in a second when I give a sample question. You can use, there are multiple sources that could be used to answer a particular part of a particular question. So if what you remember is something Chuck said in a podcast, that's great. If it's something out of one of my readings, that's great. If it's something out of Mythical Man Month, that's great. As long as you can trace it and say, yeah, here's this, and this is what this said. And frankly, I have been pleasantly surprised in past semesters in grading this to see people come up with answers that I did not expect, but that they documented. They said, well, this could happen, and because of this, I thought, actually, they're right. That's actually a very good answer to this question. I tend to like stuff like that. Okay. You must cite what the sources are if you're asked for a citation. If you feel free to cite my slides, but only if it's stuff that I'm sort of saying. If you're simply restating something out of Mythical Man, whatever, go to the original source. Don't use my slide. My slides are a great cheat sheet for looking for stuff in the original sources. But I don't have a lot of slides that are sort of just me originally, except if you go, you've got my stuff on preparing various deliverables and some other stuff. That's about it. If there are chapters in, say, Mythical Man Month or Accelerate that weren't assigned reading, but that have stuff that are appropriate, hey, use them. If it's valid, use it. That's what I care about. What I care about is you looking at situations saying, oh yeah, there's this and this and this. These are the risks, or these are the issues, or this is the mitigation. And I can go to the literature and I can pull it out. The form of citation varies, we'll talk about that, but it should be sufficient so I can identify specifically what you're relying on. We'll talk about points based on how specific your citations are. The more specific and detailed the answer, the higher the score. This is a very easy test. Well, actually, based on past experience, it's actually a pretty easy test to get an A on. It's a very easy test to get a B on. You have to really ignore things in class to get a C. I've had some people get C's on the midterm, but it's usually, I can count on one hand each semester the number of people that have C's. So, again, this is the intent of the test is not to break your skull. It's to give you a chance to demonstrate that you know the material. Yeah.
Can extra credit readings be cited?
Yes, that's a great question. If there's something in the extra credit reading, and I'll point out right now, all of you who have read Facts and Fallacies by Robert Glass, that's a great source. All you have to do is look at his table of contents and say, oh yeah, this is it, and you can say, oh yeah, fact number 35 under Robert Glass says this. Like, bam, got it. Oh. Yes?
How do we know when we've actually, sufficiently answered a question?
Well, let me talk about that. Here's an actual question from the winter 2017 midterm. You're part, and this is what most of them look like. It sets up a situation. So in this one, you're part of an IT team at Midco working on developing a custom accounting software from scratch. It's 2 months behind schedule, but everyone says, the CXOs all say it has to be on time. To that end, they're implementing the following changes. The development staff will be doubled. Developers will be required to put in 20 overtime hours a week. All developers need to be at the office at 8 a.m. each morning, including Saturday, for a mandatory 1-hour staff meeting. The scheduled time allotted to testing will be cut in half, and all your end bonuses will be canceled if the project isn't on time. Okay, I dare say for all of you, the answers leap out at you immediately. It's like, oh my gosh, what more can they do wrong? Okay, so that's And there was a hint here, so yes.
Yeah, so with citing things, you can cite the same chapter with two different things.
Oh, yeah, the same chapter covers both of them. You can cite the chapter over again. So, and then I'll simply say, for 5 points each, explain why each proposal will not help. Giving at least one citation. For an extra credit, 5 points. I may or may not have extra credit on this. I sometimes do this. So suggest a possible solution to the problem with at least one backing citation. Yeah.
How specific should the citations be? Should it just be like a chapter?
I'll show you.
Buy
That's
it off the shelf.
okay. Here are some actual. This was an outstanding set of answers, and I'll say right now, your answers don't necessarily have to be this detailed to get full credit. But this was a great answer. Everyone's squinting. I know, trying to read that. But just an example, the first one. Problem, adding more staff to late project simply does not help. In fact, we can make the project later. Here's the reasons why, and chapter 2, mythical man month, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Is writing the first sentence in citation enough, or do we need a little more?
Well, let's talk about that a bit. Okay, grading criteria. Okay, guys, don't leave anything blank. You get at least 1 point even if it's a wrong citation. There's no reason to leave any answer blank, and yet people still leave stuff blank. Okay. And you know, that may come in handy if you've got everything else well. Bad or irrelevant citation, 1 point. Likely but unspecific citation, meaning all you say. Now remember here, I had this whole description here, and a quote, and Brooks chapter 2. If you come back and simply say Brooks chapter 2, I'll give you 3 points. It's like, okay, you know roughly where it is, but that's 3 out of 5 points. That's 60% on that particular portion of the answer. If you have some level, and this is where we start to get into some of my judgment. If you have a citation with some level of detail, if you simply say Brooks Law, Brooks, chapter 2, that's 4 points. That's a B answer. Okay? You're at 80% of your possible score. And I'll say, okay, they know what it is. They know where it's at. They really didn't explain anything else. That's a good B. And then a detailed answer is 5 points. And you can decide based on your time how detailed you want to be. But this is sort of the big gap here. It's very easy to get a B on any given answer. With an A, I want to see that you really understand this and understand what the issues are. And you know, I don't want to give myself away, but really, if you even have just a sentence or two, there's a good chance you're just going to get an A. Unless, of course, you're wrong sometimes. I do have people who actually give wrong answers. Like, well, you know, that doesn't really apply. And that's when I can tell whether or not you have read and or understand the material. Yeah.
Just maybe to be explicitly clear, if we give a good explanation and a somewhat vague citation, is that still adequate?
Well, if you give a good explanation, then I know you know what the issue is. And if you had a hard time finding exactly where it is, like it's like, well, Brooks says somewhere. It's like, yeah, you're right. And you actually explain what the issue was. And you're right that Brooks said it, so I'm less concerned whether or not, you know, it's in chapter 2 or chapter 3, other than that, here was what the real issue is, and here's what Brooks said. So this is why, as I've already said, my favorite part of this class is grading the midterms. Because almost everyone does pretty well, and I look at it and say, you guys are ready to go out to the real world. You know what the issues are. You know what authorities decide. You know, you can pull your copy of Brooks off, or you can at least commiserate with your fellow engineers and say, you know, DeMarco and List are warned against this. Peopleware. This is going to end badly. Everyone's like, whoa, you know that? Yeah, I can tell you what's going to happen. You say, this is what's going to happen next, and it happens, and they start looking at you with this strange new respect. It's like, he's right. He said it was going to happen this way. That's what happened. It's like, yeah. What you have to tell them is it's because it's been happening that way for 40 years. That's why I get depressed at times. All the same old stuff. Yes.
Just to be clear, each one of those problems has an answer, and each of those answers is 5 points. Is
Yes.
that right?
Yeah. So it's 25 points per Typically, you'll have 5 questions. Each one will be worth 25 points, and I'll be asking for 5 things. And each of those will be worth 5 points. You can think of it this way. Each answer is worth 1% of your grade. Because you'll have a total of 25 answers on the test. And the test is worth 25% of your grade. So. Oh, that's it. So, yes.
Will there be like repeated answers on different, say we use Brooks' Law 3 or 4 different times?
If it applies 3 or 4 times, use it 3 or 4 times. I don't care. I mean, I'll try to divvy things up so you have to go to different sources. But if it applies, I look at it and say, yeah, this is right. We'll do it. Yes.
So for like the 3-point or 4-point thing, did they actually include like a paragraph explanation like after that citation, or did they just put like what's on?
I'm sorry. Can you ask that question again?
So for like the 3 points or the 4 points, like to get 3 points, did they just put Brooks chapter 2 as their answer, or did they actually?
No, that was it. That if it's at their whole answer.
Oh,
They simply say Brooks chapter 2.
okay.
Yeah, that's the 3-point answer. Brooks Law, Brooks chapter 2 is your whole answer for 4 points. Assuming that's enough, that's a correct answer, and it's like, okay, they don't even talk about it. Any other? Yes. This is one answer. Yeah. Yeah.
Do we have class the day?
No class. No class. Don't come here. I won't be here. Well, you can come here if you want. You're welcome to sit in here and plug in your laptop somewhere here. But yeah.
Can we go back to the question again?
This one?
So like, you have actual credit for each question?
Yeah. Oh, this particular one is I offered an extra credit on this question. I don't know if there'll be an extra credit on this midterm.
Okay.
But that was one where it said, okay, for an extra 5 points, give us 2.
In the case of the last one, would an appropriate answer simply be that your sister said, do they think we're children?
Yeah. No, you'd actually have to go back to whatever. But actually, yes, you could say, Professor Webster in his lecture, talked about this issue of not treating.
So we can reference something you say
Yep.
in a lecture, even if it's not documented in slides, or say something like that?
Yeah.
And you can still get 5 points on it?
Yeah. As long as it's a correct answer, it's visually detailed. Yeah.
Basically, a good strategy test would be to go down writing citations to everything and then add a key.
Yep. And did you all hear that? This is a wise test taker. She said a good strategy for the test would be to go through, and you can move back and forth among all the questions. Would you go through and get your citations down, and then start filling out details on the questions. So you figure if you've given all the citations and it's sufficiently, if it's meaning it's a citation at level 4 here, you've already got a B. And then you can just start adding stuff. Plus, this is a good thing to make sure you don't get stuck on a question. In other words, that's test taking 101. Go through, answer the questions that you can get right off the top of your head. Then go back and get the ones that you need to do a little work for, and then go back and start working on the ones you have to look stuff up for. Yeah.
So do you feel like a good strategy to prepare for the test would be to go out and list most of the common issues that we've been talking about in class, find references for all of them, and write them out in notes beforehand?
That would be great. I also recommend is it chapter 17 in Mythical Man Month?
18.
Where he basically provides a whole outline to his original Mythical Man Month. That's a great reference if you used or have a copy of Facts and Fallacies by Robert Glass. His table of contents is a great reference. For Peopleware and Accelerate, probably a list, but Accelerate has got at least one list in there that's good to reference. Probably a good thing is just, if you want to study for this, I'd say take a couple hours and type up a document that has all the chapters of each of the books you've read and what you consider to be key points that you're likely to find in there. And just have that handy. This is why this is open book, open note, open everything. If you do that, you'll breeze through the test. I think most of you will breeze through the test anyway, because you're gonna look at the questions, you say, oh yeah, we talked about that, oh yeah, we talked about that, oh yeah, there's this. You know, oh yeah, I'm gonna go back online and look up the slides. Now, let me just suggest real quick, how many are still having problems getting through to the class website? Okay, sounds like they fixed the problem. They've had a real problem with the public IP address. I don't want a situation where you're trying to get through and look at my slides on the class website and the class slides, you can't get there because it's not showing up. I sent out a thing on Slack a week or two ago suggesting looking into getting a open VPN account for the CS department. I think can you do that as students?
Yeah.
Okay. Get that, because that way then you don't have the public IP issue. And we'll go through all this again very briefly next week. But are there any other questions right now? Again, the average grade on the midterm is probably about an A-. I'm not trying to break your heads on this. I'm trying to make sure you know the stuff, you can look it up, you know, the department pings me every semester. It's like, you know, your grades are skewed awfully towards the high end. It's like, I don't care. I know, I'm not going for tenure. I'm here to make sure you guys are prepared and that you know this stuff going out to the real world. Let's pause for a minute and we'll do roll. So I won't record the roll. And then we'll do the first set of pitfalls from Webster 7 and then I'll get you out of here.